The Edgewood Town Council is going to hold a workshop to try to make the wastewater ordinance less harmful to the citizens who are affected by the installation and expansion of a sewer collection system while making it as functional as possible. Unfortunately, in our opinion, it isn't possible. The town is trying to apply a tool in an application that it wasn't designed for. The sewer ordinance was always presumed to be applied to commercial and undeveloped high-density housing. But the mayor, instead, spent $750,000 designing a system right in the middle of a low-density, completely built-out area with absolutely no chance of commercial development. Let me give you an example of how it was supposed to work. Edgewood was described by former Mayor Brad Hill as an outside-in economy. That means that our income largely comes to us from customers who live outside the town and who come here to shop or to obtain other services. The wastewater system is very expensive, and it will never pay for itself in user fees. Right now, it's costing over $200,000 for every service connection. But look at Walgreens, the dollar store, and the auto parts stores. Their demand on the sewer system is minimal, less than a one-bedroom house, but their contribution in gross receipts taxes keeps us economically sound. Sewers make high-density housing possible, and high-density housing makes sewer lines cost-effective. Putting sewer lines where people already have a legal working system is an unnecessary liability to the town, and it's an impossible burden on the individual citizen. The current wastewater system has a design capacity of 150,000 gallons per day, but only one half of the facility is built out, so its real capacity is closer to 75,000 gallons per day. As a rule of thumb, waste flow can be calculated at 150 gallons per bedroom, and with 27 accounts, the actual existing capacity of the plant is already half used up. With the addition of the Dairy Queen, there is only additional room for about 50 three-bedroom houses, and that's assuming an optimal operating facility, which this one is not. That means that there are no spaces for any new construction. Therefore, every unnecessary domestic hookup is an irresponsible waste of community resources, and any rush to do this is a sign of poor management. When the current capacity is full, the town will be obligated to finish out the other half of the facility, which will make room for only about 120 three-bedroom houses, and any further expansion won't be possible. The Route 66 plant is the only service area that serves commercial customers. It's also the least expensive. The council voted to make that area develop next, but they were completely and probably illegally ignored to develop areas that are much less useful to this community. Whenever you run a sewer line through a neighborhood, automatically invoking the ordinance, you are reducing the capacity of the plant by that much, whether the customer is given a waiver or not. If you oversubscribe the sewer facility, you are committing the community to spend additional money that they haven't authorized. I therefore challenge the town's governing body to tell us if there is any design capacity left in the plant now or not. And given that customers are required to hook up already, some who haven't, and others who will be obligated after March 20th, this is a critical issue for the town to address. Another problem is that it will be very difficult to enforce the ordinance where it hasn't been enforced consistently in the past. In spite of his oath of office and state law, the mayor says he can enforce the ordinance when and if he chooses. For example, the Dairy Queen has been adjacent to a collector line for years, but hasn't been required to join the system. Instead, the recent collector extension on Cactus Road made an expensive new line to the Dairy Queen at the back portion of their property line, making it considerably more convenient for them to connect. The average citizen probably shouldn't expect the same accommodation. It will be hard to enforce the ordinance that imposes such an unnecessary hardship on so many people, and it will be difficult to force people to do something they simply can't. Importantly, there are also hidden liabilities. It is the informal opinion of a staff member at the Attorney General's office, and stated unequivocally in the New Mexico State Constitution, that the town can't condemn a citizen's EPA-certified and functioning wastewater treatment facility without just compensation. Unfortunately, we'll only know for sure after a court decision in a future class action lawsuit. Other liabilities could include easements or other property damage. But what I think is most disturbing is the lack of due diligence on the part of the town's governing body. These awful decisions are based on the concept that dilution is the solution to the problems with the wastewater treatment plant, namely, that we need domestic flow to dilute the commercial flow. The sewer ordinance requires the town to monitor the pre-processing of waste from its commercial customers. But this hasn't been done, probably because there's nobody to do it. The governing body, therefore, has very little idea if the proper flow needs dilution or not, or how much domestic flow is needed, if any. This vital data is completely unknown to them. Domestic users have the same hard water as commercial users, and they're just as likely to introduce grease, solvents, food remnants, antibacterials, and little green plastic Spider-Man action figures. Most of Edgewood's commercial flow is essentially domestic flow, including the 52-room Comfort Inn Hotel. Within 50 feet of the wastewater treatment plant is a reuse pool that contains over 1 million gallons of Class 1A water. Currently, the town is in default of its wastewater discharge permit because they don't have an adequate means of disposing of this water. Why not figure out a way to use this resource instead of requiring mandatory connection for residential properties? This is Adrian Terry, brought to you by Citizens for an Open and Responsible Edgewood.